For this cause was the gospel preached to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to God in the Spirit. Most people read one verse and start making conclusions. But in this study we are going to read this verse in context, and soon we shall discover that it's not hard to understand its meaning. Let's begin with verse 1. For as much then as Christ has suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lusts of men, but to the will of God. In other words, Peter is saying that we should put to death the sinful nature in us, and thus we shall cease from sin, just as Christ left us an example. In verse 3 we read that, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lasciviousness, lusts, excess of wine, revellings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries. Verse 4. Wherein they think it strange that you run not with them to the same excess of riot, speaking evil of you. Again, Peter is saying that before we became Christians, we all had a past life of sin, and he mentioned some of the sinful behaviors. For example, lasciviousness, lusts, excess of wine, revellings, banquetings, and abominable idolatries. But now that we've become Christians, our past companions that we used to hang out with before our conversion don't understand why we no longer indulge in the same habits. And in verse 5 we read that, who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead? I think that's clear that unless our companions get converted, only judgment awaits them. Now verse 6. For this cause was the gospel preached to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to God in the Spirit. Now let's break it down. The first portion says, for this cause was the gospel preached to them that are dead. In other words, there was a time when the gospel was preached, and this time is in the past according to the tense that is being used here. And this gospel was preached to a certain group of people who are currently dead. And the purpose of the preaching was that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to God in the Spirit. In other words, these people after receiving the gospel would be judged by men, but they would receive eternal life from God. In summary, the gospel was preached to a group of people who once lived but are now dead. And as a result of receiving the gospel, they were judged by men or persecuted by men, but they received eternal life from God. I hope you've understood the meaning of this verse when studied in context. Verse 7. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. Friend, the time is running out. Now is the time for us to fully surrender our lives to Christ. The signs around us tell us that the time is running out. We may never get another chance. Let's choose Christ today. May God bless you.